My name is Lewis and I'm currently training for the biggest races I've ever competed in, which include the European Middle Distance Champs, Ironman Tallinn and Outlaw Half Holcomb. And in this episode I finally start to understand the problems that I've been having with my hip and knee on the bike. I get my first ever physio appointment and I let you know whether I think it's worth it or not. And I go through my usual weekly volume and some of the training sessions I've had. As you know, most triathletes tend to have little time to train, so I'm doing a turbo session whilst doing this. So apologies if the audio isn't fantastic. This week overall went slightly better than last week. If you didn't watch last week's episode, I'll link it up here so you can go and watch that. It started with some decent sessions. I had a long run on Tuesday, which is usually around an hour and a half long. I never usually run on a treadmill because I think it's a little bit boring and I prefer to go outdoors and feel like I'm actually travelling somewhere. However, two things. Firstly, on my training plan, it said that if I can, to go out onto some trails for the run. Around me, I don't really have any good trails to run on. Also, the weather was basically awful, so I opted that the best decision was to go and do it on a treadmill. I ended up doing an hour and about 35 minutes, I think it was. And to be honest with you, I didn't exactly enjoy it. I much prefer running outside, and also, for some reason, the same sort of hip niggle that I get whilst riding a bike came up on the run, and I think it's because, and the hip niggle basically is sort of like feels like an overuse or a compensation type feeling in this hip. And I think the reason that it flared up is because on a treadmill, you're at one speed, you're in one direction, and because of that, you don't, it's like the same with being on a turbo trainer compared to being outdoors on a bike, is you're sort of fixed into one position for the whole time with very limited other movement. And I think that basically caused my hip to overwork, and the next day it ended up actually being really quite sore, like an overuse muscle soreness, like if you were to go to the gym and train a certain muscle group, which kind of leads me to believe that there's some sort of imbalance or tightness or something in my lower body which is causing me to overuse my hip, which kind of makes sense, I suppose. And then so off the back of that, and having quite a sore hip the day after the long run, I ended up booking in a physio appointment, which I will end up getting to later on in this episode. Something else to note, which similarly related to sort of hip and knee issues, I ended up buying a new saddle for my road bike. Reason being is my old saddle is, well, firstly it's one from AliExpress, which means it's probably got no sort of technology or testing involved in it. It's also quite narrow and there's very little padding on it. So I ordered a Prime, I can't remember what it's called, but I'll put it on screen, saddle, which is a lot wider, a lot more cushioning, and the pressure release channel in the centre is a lot bigger than the old saddle. I put that on the bike and instantly noticed a huge difference, and I think that's where maybe all of this stems from. I think that where the saddle was so uncomfy, I was sitting to one side a lot or shifting my body around a lot, basically just to try and find a comfy spot. And that linked with using the Physio Asioma Duo She pedals, which have a really increased Q factor. Where I was shifting on the seat a lot and my feet were out so wide, it was making my knee alignment terrible. And I think I've discovered that I prefer it when my knees track really close to the frame. It feels comfiest, it feels like I can put out most power. And yeah, and also when I run, sometimes my knees actually hit each other, going past each other, so I think I've got maybe narrow hips or, I don't know, slightly inward knees or whatever the reason. But that ended up making a huge difference. On Saturday, I ended up having a really good day. The day started off with a physio session. I am here at Colchester Sports Park. I'm here for my first ever physio appointment. Not really sure what to expect, never had one before. What I'm hoping for is that they can sort of, sorry if you can hear the wind, but they can like analyse my body a bit, see where, if my hips are twisted, see if I've definitely got like a lot of imbalances in my body, which I think is affecting my knees running and cycling and giving me discomfort. So yeah, be interesting to see if it makes a difference or if I get any clarity or anything. So see ya after, I suppose. Right, that is physio appointment done. It was interesting actually. Not what I was completely expecting. Basically, I got told that, so we ran like through a few like different mobility tests and a few different stretches and stuff like that to see what was wrong with my body. Obviously answered a load of questions about what I'm feeling, about the discomfort in my knee and hip. We kind of came to the conclusion, or Michael, the guy that did the sort of appointment, came to the conclusion that that my knee issue is probably stemming from my hip area, probably due to like a bit of instability, and the instability is coming from a weak glute, or not weak but a weaker glute. He said that the chances are that, yeah, maybe basically my right glute is definitely weaker than my left glute by a little bit, which could be causing instability. And yeah, maybe, well, he didn't say this, but this is kind of what I get from it, is that it's then causing me to maybe like overuse my hip, or I don't know. But he said, yeah, first thing to work on is carry on with my stretching, what I've started including this week. Also, definitely start foam rolling. He said that that's like a kind of like a soft tissue massage type thing. So definitely going to get a foam roller, start that. And then one of the main things is basically strengthening that right glute. So he's given me 3 different exercises to do, basically as and when I can, to help with that sort of imbalance. So yeah, we're going to do that for 6 to 8 weeks, and then going to go do a follow-up, yeah, and see if it gets any better. But it's interesting to know that there's no real you kind of feel a bit silly sometimes going into them and they go, well, you've not really got any problems. But yeah, that was the conclusion. So it's a good thing to know that I've got no real big issues. But that was good. I think I'm going to try and go over to the swimming pool now for a swim. Trouble is, the local pool near me that I like to go to, that's a really nice pool with wide lanes, is now closed until the 2nd of January, which means I either have to go to Colchester, which I don't think is open at the minute, or go to Walton, which is like, it's a weird swimming pool at Walton. It's like more like a fun pool than a actual lane pool that they put lanes in. But I did end up managing to find a pool with some swim times that I could make. It was at Colchester Leisure World. I could only fit in a very short session though. I think it ended up being just over 2k, like maybe 2.2k's. And then I had to get home pretty quickly because my other half was going out. Then later on in the day, I ended up having quite a good run session, and that went a little bit like this. 10 miles in the books, basically all easy, including 3 by 10 minutes building from an easy pace to tempo pace. Kind of ignored heart rate completely on this one and just went by feel. Ended up averaging a 7:17 minute per mile. Not too bad. Heart rate was probably high, but oh well, it felt good. Legs felt really good actually. The first like 8-9 minutes of the run, of the 10-minute builds, felt super comfy, like really comfy. So it's good signs. Think it's going in the right direction. So yeah, all good. Happy with that one. Then on Sunday, which was Christmas Eve, I ended up missing my session. I had a long ride booked in, a 3-hour ride, but the day kind of just got away from me a bit and I never ended up finding time to do it, which was a little bit annoying because the rest of the week was going so well. And to finish it with a missed session isn't great, but yeah, it is what it is. It's Christmas Eve, you know, you've got to spend some time enjoying life a little bit, and it's not the worst thing. So that ended up being my week. I'll go through my total weekly volume. I ended up doing in total 9 hours and 9 minutes. Would have been 12 hours if I didn't miss that session. I ended up doing 2 hours and 12 minutes of swimming, which ended up being 9,186 yards. which is like 8.5k maybe, something like that. Ended up doing 3 hours and 17 minutes on the bike, which is rubbish. And I ended up doing 3 hours and 40 minutes of running, which I think was 28 miles, somewhere around that, maybe a bit more. So yeah, overall, if I hadn't missed that session, it would have been a good week. I'm glad to have got 3 swims in, because really struggled, I don't know why, fitting in the swims. But yeah, so overall, like I say, definitely better than last week. It's going in the right direction. Also, I'm currently in the middle of the following week. This week seems to be going quite well as well, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss next week's episode. A few gear upgrades, some good training, some big training. So yeah, definitely a good one to watch if you want to. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time for some more triathlon related content.